Welcome back to Working Faith, where we take a spiritual approach to career success. I'm your host, Jalen Isley, and today we're talking about providing excellent client experience. I'm excited to introduce Joseph Lombardi. Joseph Lombardi specializes in rollovers of existing retirement accounts and building a legal tax-free bank. He's here to protect your business, your finances, and your family. Joseph, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. I am so excited to discuss how we can take a spiritual approach to client experience. Building relationships is so critical, and people relate much more to who you are as a person than even what you deliver for them sometimes. So I'm happy to have you on the show to talk about it.
I'm excited.
Yeah, definitely. Well, once again, this show is about leveraging spiritual principles of our faith to succeed in our careers. So let's talk about your faith journey. You identify as Christian. Tell us how your faith has shaped who you are today.
Yeah, so I lived a crazy life. Was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut, flew to Florida right when I was like a month old. So I actually have a Florida Social Security because back in the 80s, it was when you registered, not getting it at the hospital. But, my parents went through a divorce when I was 4. My mother took, everything that my father had through the divorce and then called my father back a month later and said, come get your son or I'll put him in an orphanage. So I grew up very, very, very poor. My dad drove down in his work van. We had a TV, $500 and a blanket. It's about what we had. We lived in the attic with no running water.
Hmm.
We had a mattress, a bucket, a TV, a toaster, and a microwave. That's about it. And
Wow.
then, but when you're young, you don't really understand,
Hmm.
a lot of this stuff. It hurt a lot when your own mom doesn't want to, but she had her demons with alcohol and drugs, and she ended up dying of it at 52 years old from cirrhosis of the liver. I always prayed. I may not have gone to church every day because we were poor, but I always knew that I was put here for a reason. There's a lot of my friends. I grew up in Fairfield, Connecticut after we moved from Trumbull. My dad's business was doing well. And I was part of this like group of about 15 kids that were troubled kids, right? So
Hmm.
like I had like the most IS in school suspensions out of anybody at Fairfield Woods Middle School. But it weren't for malicious things. It was just from acting out. I was always looking for attention, not having a mom, your dad working 80 hours a week, being brought up by a daycare, then dropped off at your grandma's. And then my grandma told my dad, don't expect me to be his mom. So, going through all that, I had basically two choices. I could have said, woe is me, boo hoo, my life's so hard. Or I could say, let me learn and let me become strong through the animosity that God put in front of me. And Lord knows I need it with my wife. But like, so when, growing up, a lot of people, I was again part of this group of 15 mischiefs, so to say. And by the time high school was over, about 4 years later, 11 of them were dead. Drug
Hmm.
overdose, alcohol, car accidents, suicides, so I always felt that I was like lucky. I always felt like I was always on the brim of not, because my mom didn't even want to have me. She's like, I don't want a kid. I'm going to get an abortion. And my dad was so pro-life. He's like, no, we're going to get this kid. And my mom's like, well, I party and I do drugs and all this. And I says, I don't want a kid. But my dad was pro-life. So I can see like my whole life, I was almost always just about to not make it. And
Hmm.
somehow through the grace of God, I make it. And I've seen 1, 2, 3, 4, like 12:34 on the clock. I can't tell you how many times. And the craziest time I've ever seen it was I got pulled over. I was speeding, driving, reckless. This is when I was like 18. And they hit me with 2 tickets stapled together because they couldn't fit all the citations on one. So I went to court and they were like, oh, well, we're going to give you community service. So I went to a halfway house in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and I'm cutting carrots, right? And all of a sudden, I cut about 500 carrots and, pounds of carrots. So I'm like cutting these carrots, 8 hours a day for a week. And like by like the last day I was there, I look over at the microwave and all of a sudden I see 1, 2, 3, 4 blinking. Like if I turn on a microwave, it like starts to blink. I go, that's weird. So I go to like check to see if the microwave was plugged in. It wasn't even plugged in. And I
Wow.
was like, okay. But I mean, seeing one, two, three, four, the purpose of me bringing that up is I always felt like I had angels. I felt like I had protectors. I always felt
Hmm.
like there's a deeper purpose for me being here, whether it's for the birth of my children, birth of my grandchildren, for me to help people in my career. I've always felt like there was a purpose for me to be here. And it's hard to explain, like just seeing the same times. I sped like my friends did. I didn't die. I used to drive 150 miles an hour on the Merritt Parkway or I-95. Never had any issues, but my friends did. Like doing drugs in high school. I did them. They died. I didn't. Like all the things that like they were doing, I was somehow doing it with them, but escaping the consequences of death, which a lot of my friends growing up didn't get the chance to escape. So, like, given all that, I feel like this my spirituality and Christianity is I know for a fact there's a God. Statistically, I should not be here. From the fact my mom didn't want me to the childhood I had to, I mean, I had kids that wanted to beat the brakes off of me in high school, but I had a brother who was 6'6". His name was Vince Lombardi, and he was like built like a Viking. And so
Hmm.
they would go to my brother, please let me beat him up, please let me beat him up, and he never would. So it's like I've always felt like there's always been a shield or a protection
Hmm.
around me, and the only conclusion to all of that is God.
Interesting. Interesting. You know, you said something earlier about, two approaches you could take to your circumstances. One is wallowing in victimhood, and then the other, it seems like you had the wisdom to turn within and recognize there is a power greater inside of you that can actually shape your destiny if you lean into it. I mean, it looks like it was protecting you even when you weren't conscious of it, and now that you are conscious of it, it's really shaped how you approach your life and your family. Do I have
Yeah,
that right?
it's 100%. I mean, it's like when I'm a gambling man, right? So when you deal with stocks and bonds and all this, I mean, it's gambling, and I decided the best gamble I could ever make is on myself.
Hmm.
So ever since I came to that real conclusion about 6 months ago, or probably about 5 years when I started my own business, but about 6 months ago, when I really started going all in on Ironhawk Financial, my business, building a legacy for my children and grandchildren. What I found is that doing that has totally opened a sense that I never had, a
Hmm.
sense that I can build something that is everlasting. I can build something that is going to provide tremendous value to the people I love and to the people I work with. And it is unbelievable what I accomplished, in my opinion, from writing 3 books, from getting featured in International Business Times, Market Insider, Business Insider, being on the cover of the top 40 advisors in the country under 40 years old, just
Mm-hmm.
some guy that fell into this. I mean, when I was 13 years old, my dad owned a construction company, and he took me to a multi-million-dollar mansion in Greenwich, Connecticut. And he goes, go play with his child while I go price the job. So it was just me and him, right? So I go downstairs, I go to the basement, and this guy had a basketball court, a baseball field. It was like
Hmm.
Chuck E. Cheese on steroids. And we get back to the
Interesting.
truck after I had so much fun. And I go, what does that guy do? And my dad goes, he works on Wall Street. So like, since I was 13, I wanted to work on Wall Street when I had no idea what it meant. And then you fast forward like 5 years later, I'm 18, 19 years old. I'm bartending at a high end restaurant, and the CEO of Northwestern Mutual comes in. He goes, your energy is amazing. I would love for you to work in this career. What are you studying in college? And I was studying economics and finance. It was perfect. Come work for me. So it was like, I always felt like God put me
Hmm.
in the right position at the right time for me to learn a lesson I was supposed to learn to get me to a point where I am today. And I couldn't have done this by myself. There's no way you're going to tell somebody who had the issues I had with my mom, the anxiety I had when your own mom doesn't want you, to saying that 20, 30 years later, I now own a very successful business. I have a great family. I have 3 children. I've known my wife for 17 years, as trying as it has been, married for 17 with her for 21. But I always stayed on God's plan, whether it was
Yeah.
painful, whether it was enjoyable.
Mm.
Whether I was scared, whether I was excited, I always stayed on what I felt God is telling me I should do.
That makes perfect sense. That takes a level of faith that many people need in order to be successful. And it sounds like, one of the things that I love the most about what you just shared there is that you consistently showed up for life. Like you showed up and it gave God an opportunity to position and direct you into the right places at the right time, to meet the right people, to accelerate your career. So talk to me about, the client experience here, because you've got to show up for your clients too. So how have your spiritual beliefs influenced your approach to delivering excellent client service?
For me, it comes down to the golden rule. You treat others the way you want to be treated. And I believe in my soul that we are not living in a karmatic world. So if
Mm-hmm.
you give out good vibes, right? That's the new thing. Like, oh, your vibes are good. Those are called vibrations. Vibration is an energy. So I believe that if you give out good vibes, you give out good energy, the world sees that almost like you're a beacon. And when
Mm.
you're a beacon to the world, sort of like a Wi-Fi connection, we can't see it, but we know it's there, right? So when you give out that vibration, that energy, what it does is it attracts like-minded vibration, like-minded energy. And I saw it when I was doing drugs and I was be a bad kid when I was younger. I see it when, I'm a good father, I'm a good husband, I'm a good business owner, I do the right thing. I can see how the energy and the vibrations that I portray out in communication and body language, because body language is 86% of our language. When you're able to feel that from somebody, it's almost like a connection you get where your mind says, I either known this person before, I like this person, I trust this person, but it's not really coming from your head, it's coming from your heart. And it's like
Mm.
that's where I feel like I'm have a gift where I'm able to decipher, is this person here to benefit me? Is this person here to take from me? Is this person gonna hurt me? And having that, I think, is a valuable trait that I think God blessed me with.
Interesting. And now, can you share an example of a work challenge related to client experience where you had to rely on your faith or spiritual principles to guide your behavior?
Yeah, I mean, when you deal with money, right? I've been doing this 20 years and I have 1,600 clients, over $1 billion of protection and rollovers and whatnot. So you come across people that don't have great vibration. So there was one guy that came to me. He was like, "Hey, I'm cashing out my 401k. I was thinking about putting in a Roth IRA." This was back then when it was to Roth or not to Roth. I don't know if you remember, but it was a big, big deal. It was all over the news.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up showing this guy a strategy where you can use life insurance as an asset. And it's called Being Your Own Bank, one of the many books I've written on Amazon. And so I went over the strategy with him. Make a long story short, there was another agent that became involved later after the guy said, "Yeah, let's do this." And the other agent said, "No, you don't want to do that. That guy doesn't have your best interest at heart. That guy's going to try and charge you high commissions. He's only doing it to benefit him." So what did that guy do is he wrote a nasty letter to the company that I was working at and saying, this agent told me to cash out my 401k. And thank God I had like evidence, text messages that said, hey, this is what I'm doing. But him and the other guy conspired to get his money out to come after me. So
Hmm.
I prayed. I said, God, I did exactly what this guy wanted to do. Another agent came involved. The other agent's lying. He manipulated the other guy into saying that I did something unethical or immoral, which I've never done, at least business wise, in my life. And having that over my head for 6 months, is that going to hurt my series license? Is that going to be a ding on me? Is that something that can I get fired for? Is that? But I knew I
Mm.
didn't do anything wrong. But it was
Right.
the fact that the devil or negative energy was around, which that's usually greed or gluttony. That's a
Hmm.
negative sin, a deadly sin. So when I saw that, I really said, "Oh my God, God, please, I worked so hard to build this business, build my license. I don't want this to affect if I could feed my family." Because my wife hasn't worked in 12 years and she has a lot of health ailments. So it was like, what am I supposed to do? And I put my faith in God, and make a long story short, with praying and putting out positive energy and asking for help, which a lot of people don't do. They suffer in silence and don't think that
Yeah.
there is something, another power, because it all comes down to yin and yang. You can't have evil without good. You can't have light without dark. So again, there has to be some sort of negative entity. We see it with like child sex trafficking rings. We see the most horrible things in life. I mean, even the subway guy, I just watched a documentary on him and it was disgusting. But when you have children, you get more like involved how to protect your own children. But so it's like you see there's negative in this world. So what I try and do is pray. I pray every single day for health, wealth, and guidance. And I don't use
Mm-hmm.
wealth to God as money. So if you pray for money, you'll never get it. How wealth is more along the lines of knowledge, protection, be doing the right thing, alerting me if I'm doing something wrong that can hurt myself or somebody else or the people I love. Like just having that awakeness, right? Because that word woke is too commonly used, but it used to mean before the whole political aspect of it was just, are you awakened to your Lord? Are you awakened to a higher power? And it was like, I always tried to stay awake to the higher power and say, God, tell me what you need me to do. You want me to grow this business to a multi-million dollar? You want me to grow it to 100 agents? You want me to help feed 1,000 people that I can have under me and help their families grow? Should I teach other agents my strategy, have them become profitable and successful like I am? Like what is the next step, God? Because I'm
Mm.
very blessed and happy where I am now, but I can always be doing more, right? I can always be doing more to serve my Lord and I can serve my God. And that's where you have to ask, please come into me. Please, Lord, show me what you need me to do. I'm your vessel. Bring me to the place that is going to be beneficial for you. And if it's beneficial for me, great. If it's not, if it's, hey, I'm sponsoring the girls softball team, which I do, I don't get anything out of it. If I sponsor my son's sports events, I don't get anything out of it. I'm helping these people do what they love. They love basketball. They love softball. They love like my daughter is now in dance. She's got chosen to be on the Turn It Up national dance team and the United States tap team. She's 8.
Hmm.
Well, that's like $30,000 a year. God, please give me the resources and the help that I can to support my child's dream. It's doing the things and asking. I am not God. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
ask to be here. I didn't create me. I didn't give myself the talents. So if I didn't do it, who did?
Right,
And that's the
right.
question when people say there's no God. It's like, how could you be atheist when you did not? I didn't fill out a form that says, I want to be white. I want to be tall. I want to be a man. I want to be living in the United States. I didn't ask for any of that. So God decided that he's going to make me in his image the way he deems will be appropriate for the goals that he's trying to accomplish. So who am I to
Right.
get in the
Yeah.
way to stop that?
And when we talk about whether God exists or doesn't exist, even those conversations are of no consequence to me. Like it's all about how are you going to show up in this world? Because what you say, I mean, people say one thing one day and something else, the other day. And so the verbal wars and sparring that we get into sometimes, I like the fact that you focus so much on how you can show up using the talents and the abilities that were given to you. And whatever anyone else experiences, I choose to believe that everyone experiences something for a reason. They have a perspective, an idea about something for a reason. And even if you're encountering someone who has a different perspective than you have, it's an opportunity for you to demonstrate a different experience than they may not have considered. And so I appreciate the fact that you consistently show up for your clients, for your children, for your community, because it's the action, it's the demonstration that transforms people for the better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in order to have good, you have to show good. You have to teach
Exactly.
somebody by actions.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When you're a kid, what do you want to be? An astronaut. Are you doing anything to become an astronaut? Right? Well, no. Well, you
Right.
never be one. It's like
Exactly.
everything is a dream in your head, and it only becomes a goal when you write it down. That's why I think the Bible was so powerful. Because it was written down. It was from tons of people throughout the time, space, religion, nationality, skin color. None of that mattered. It was about a book on God. And it was like, you have to write it down in order to let it pass on. And you have to write it down in order to activate it. And that's what a lot of people don't have. People have, God has given them so much power in their head. And they just haven't done one simple thing, which is write down what that power is and how can they utilize that power to become a better version of themselves. Like I call myself Joe 2.0, right? Because I stepped up from doing a lot of dumb things. I was trying to change a lot of the bad habits I had. And in order to do that, you have to write down, what am I doing? What can I do to change it? And what does it look like later? And what are the benefits, right? And when you have that goal, it allows you to measure how well am I or horrible I'm doing at achieving or unachieving this goal. And it gives you that sort of motivation when things are going well to keep going when you don't feel like it.
Definitely, definitely. And let's talk about that for a moment. You know, there are going to be days when you don't feel like it. Are there specific practices you use to maintain your spiritual health and well-being?
Praying every day, having a setting time for your Lord. Doesn't have to be a set time. Sometimes I'm in the middle of a heated debate with my spouse or something, and I just take a step back and I say, "Please, Lord, I don't want this. Right now. Is there a way we can calm this down?" And I don't say it out loud. I say it in my head. I look at what I have, and I'm so thankful. I have 3 beautiful children that I love more than anything that I didn't create, but I love. I have 4 cats who I love. I have a one-eyed dog that I love. I have these things in my life that I didn't make, but through the course of making, in my opinion, proper decisions, it elevated me to the power to be responsible for their well-being, right? Like a child cannot take care of itself. If you leave a child alone for a month, it's dead. You leave an animal alone for a month after you domesticate it, it's dead. So it's like I'm in charge of the life of my family. I am the protector. I am the provider. I am the person that when it hits the fan or there's a boom in the night, I'm the one with the gun that's going to make sure that everything is okay. So it's doing those things and making time, which a lot of people don't make time for things.
Yeah. The investment that you make, just like if you're investing in anything else, requires that dedication and that time. So I agree with, the process of consistently, daily, habitually investing in your spiritual wellness so that you can show up and actually live out the purpose that has been placed before you. So, well, this is great. We appreciate you so much for sharing how we can take a spiritual approach to serving our clients. How can the audience connect with you and stay up to date on what you're doing?
Yeah, so I have all the socials. I'm at Ironhawk Financial, at Ironhawk_financial. You can go to my website, ironhawkfinancial.com. I have anything from TikTok to Instagram to YouTube to Rumble. I try to give as much free content. If you want a free copy of my book, I'll send you all 3 of them. You just go to ironhawkfinancial.com, go to contact us, fill out your name, your email, and your phone number. And I'll definitely reach out to you. And if the purpose was just, hey, I just want a copy of your books, no questions asked, I'll send them to you.
Very nice. Excellent. Well, you all heard it. Take advantage of this opportunity to connect with someone who can really assist you in protecting your present and your future. So don't miss out on that. Well, thank you all for listening to Working Faith. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. All the show notes, information about our guests, and link to submit your career questions can be found on the website, workingfaith.com. Remember to subscribe, rate, and share this show with others. I'd love to hear your comments. You can always engage directly by joining the Working Faith group on LinkedIn. And thanks again for listening. We'll be back next week with more tips on how you can take a spiritual approach to your career success and work your faith. Good day.